Hey everybody, I'm Terry.
I'm Melissa.
And we are Nations Travels. Today we're over here next to Talladega.
In Lincoln.
Yeah, in Lincoln, Alabama at the Talladega Motor Speedway.
And the Motorsports
International
Hall of Fame.
Motorsports Hall of Fame.
We're going to go see some NASCARs.
Yeah, I like auto racing, and I'm looking forward to doing this and seeing what they have in here. And I hope that you enjoy as much as I think I'm going to.
And if the driver shows up, we'll be taking a tour of the Talladega Speedway.
Yeah.
Yay!
So anyway, we're hoping that happens. And anyway, if it does, we'll try to show it to you. But for now,
decked out in NASCAR.
I got my Bill Elliott shirt on today since I came here. So I'm ready for this.
I'm just purple, but I do know I've seen on TV there is a purple car in there.
I saw it too, I think.
Yeah, I told you when I saw it on the video, purple car. My granddaughter loves purple. Anyways, we're gonna go in there and see what we can find and bring it to you, and then we'll see you to close it out. So let's live life
together,
and we'll see you in a little bit.
Let me first give you I guess a shot of the first building that I'm in. There are three separate buildings. But as you can see, there's a lot of cars in here, and I'll try to take a look at all of them. First, we have a 1940 Mercury, and it was actually ran on the beach at Daytona at the old beach track before they had the big tracks built. They have a plaque on the back stating that it ran on the beach in 1947. And what's interesting, it is a 1940 sedan, which means this car was 7 years old when it was raced on the beach. It wasn't a brand new car back then. And the car is completely stock. As you can see, there's no roll bar, no cages. They removed the max seat, I guess, to save a little weight. But this is really a piece of history. This next car was driven by Fireball Roberts. And this takes us from that 40 model all the way up to 62. And as you see now, they do have a little bit of a roll cage assembly in here. And they removed everything front but the driver's seat. But it is an actual seat that would have come in the car back in the day. And here's a 1981 Buick that was driven by Ron Bouchard. And now it's starting to look a little bit more like the race cars we know today. And here's a Winston show car here. As you know, Winston Cup used to be sponsored by Winston Cigarettes. This is a 77 Monte Carlo that was driven by Darrell Waltrip. And as you can see, the car still looks pretty much like a car that you would drive on the road, Monte Carlo from that year. Like this, so it was still pretty, the body still looked pretty stock at that time. But you can see the roll cage has advanced a little bit more now. They replaced the stock seats with a tiny racing seat and some padding behind the driver. That will get a lot better in the years to come. This Oldsmobile was ran in the ARCA Racing Series, and I thought this was something that's called the Louise Special. I don't know who Louise was, but I guess this is named after her in some way. Another car from the ARCA Series, I think won the series in 77 or 78. But I really like that color.
Eddie's car. I want to take his picture. If he can get in. I did not put my legs in it. I kept them out. All right, look at me, Big Daddy.
Oh, yeah, I could do this.
Yeah.
No problem.
Till you hit a wall.
Oh, yeah. I'm sitting inside the Richard Petty, I guess you call it cabin replica. Whatever. I see they do have their ignition boxes here and fire extinguishers to the side. And I'm pretty sure that during the race, if something goes wrong with the ignition, they can switch to a different ignition box. Here's the number 5 Kellogg's Monte Carlo. Terry Labonte used to drive. This particular car was driven by Kyle Busch during his rookie year. I think it was previously one of Terry Labonte's cars. Here's the number 28 Texaco Havoline car that was driven by Davey Allison. If you remember, Davey Allison was a young guy, probably in his 20s, that he died in a helicopter crash years ago. But he really was a good driver and probably would have won a championship had he not passed away. They have sprint cars and midget racers here also. And this is a racing go-kart, I guess. These are really small to be going really fast on. Now this is Bill Elliott's car, the Coors milling Ford Thunderbird. And Winston used to have a program called the $1 Million Challenge, I think it was called. But if you won these 3 races, Daytona, Talladega, and Darlington, you won $1 million, and Bill Elliott did that. And he became known as $1 Million Bill after that. See this? There's this trophy sitting on top of the car here, and it is world qualifying record for stock cars, which is 212.229 miles an hour. And after that, I think they started putting restrictor plates on cars and slowing them down. Here's an '85 Ford Thunderbird that was driven by Jody Ridley. He was from North Georgia, and he was also the 1980 Winston Cup Rookie of the Year. Here's a Chevrolet Lumina that was driven by Hermie Sadler. It's the Virginia is for Lovers car. There's a '69 Dodge Charger that was driven by Bobby Isaac. As you can see, this was really, and even in '69, this was a real car that still had the window trim on it that would have come like from the factory. And you still have pretty much a factory body. You even have the chrome trim around the back glass here. This is a '94 Chevy Lumina that was driven by Harry Gant, and I guess the plaque says it's the last car that he raced. But I noticed here it says Burt and Hal's on the side. I think that Burt Reynolds and Hal Needman might have been a part owner in the team at that time. So they do have some older motorcycles from the 60s, it looks like, here on display. This particular one is a 1940 Indian motorcycle, which is really in good condition. It's a nice looking motorcycle. This is a Yamaha Scrambler, which I guess is what a dirt bike would have looked at like in '68. But you can tell by how the pipes are way up off the ground. They come up so high for, I guess, clearance. But they've changed a lot over the years. Here's another Davey Allison car here. I think I showed the other one earlier that had the black and white paint job over with the chrome letters in the distance. Here's a Monte Carlo that was driven by Kevin Harvick from Richard Childress Racing. Here's a shot of this first room from the other angle over here. I'll give you a different perspective of the room. When you enter the second building here, they have a little display of pictures here from the National Hot Rod Association drag racing. All seem to be associated with drag racing. As you can see, as we scan across this room, most of the cars here do seem to be deal with Winston Cup type cars. And I keep saying Winston Cup because that's what I grew up with, but now I think it's Xfinity Series. So excuse me if I use that term. Here's a '64 Ford Galaxy that was driven by Tiny Lund. And as you can see, it still has the grille. They just removed the headlights and put covers over it. Still has all the, I guess, factory glass and trim. Has a factory seat, but they've added a side cushion over there on it. Same with the back end. They've still got all the factory trim pieces on there, but they have removed the lights. And as you can see, they've added these straps onto the back windows because I think in the past they had windows blow out during races because they wouldn't ride around with the windows down and the pressure would build up inside the car. Or I guess in case of accidents, it'd probably come out too. They do have some of the drivers' racing helmets on display here. I see Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Busch, Dale Jr., Jeff Gordon. Several there, and they have a lot of die casts here on display also. So I guess if you couldn't put all the cars in here, you can at least get the die casts put in here, but there is a lot. And here is another display of helmets over here. Those are some really shiny helmets. I don't know if my camera does it justice, but those are really nice paint jobs on those helmets. They have a lot of die-cast collectibles in here, and there's some in here that I recognize that, like I have two sons and a daughter, and we actually collected some of these Cartoon Network cars. There's one with Dexter's Laboratory on the hood. And I also see one down here that has Tom and Jerry on it. And we have both of those and have several others also. I see several of Dale Earnhardt's cars in here, and there's one in particular I'm looking for that I don't see. There was one he actually wrecked in a race, and he rolled the car and got out of it. It was damaged pretty badly, and he had then got in the ambulance to go back to the infield care center, and he noticed the tires were still up on the car, and he found out that the engine was still running, so he got out of the ambulance and got back in it and finished the race. And they made a die cast of that car with the dents. And the plaque overhead of the display cases says that all these cars were donated by Ron Brown of Lincoln, Georgia. So he had a pretty extensive collection. They have this wood and fiberglass block right here. I don't know if this is a base for a Cobra or what it is exactly, but there is a picture of Carroll Shelby here in a Shelby Cobra. They do have one of Alan Kulwicki's Hooters Ford Thunderbirds in here, and it says this was one of the last cars that he drove before he passed away. I always liked seeing this M&M's car on the track. It was always very colorful. There's Bobby Hillin. And I'm actually excited and amazed to see this. This is Ricky Bobby's Wonder Car from the movie Talladega Nights. And that is so cool. And you know, when they got Wonder Bread as a sponsor here on the car, I actually thought they would probably maybe start doing that for real for a driver, but it never materialized. It says that this car is actually owned by the Shell Oil Company, and it's on loan to the International Motorsports Hall of Fame. That's so cool. And look, there's Ricky Bobby standing right over there, keeping an eye on it. And here's one of the racing trucks from the Truck Series. There's a car that says Bobby Allison, number 22 there. Here's one of Michael Waltrip's Napa Auto Parts cars. It has a picture on the dash of, it says 2003 Daytona 500. I don't know if this is the actual car or they're just saying that he did win it. I do notice there's signatures all over the car and on the door down here. So a lot of people signed the car. And here's one of Dale Earnhardt's cars, and of all the drivers that have driven in NASCAR, I've enjoyed watching Dale drive more than anybody. He was just a lot of fun to watch, and he was known as an intimidator, and a lot of times he would bump people and Whenever somebody said something, it always kind of seemed like, he was just, one time I think he said he just trying to rattle the cage. He wasn't trying to wreck nobody, but he was just really fun to watch. And here's one of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s cars, number 8 Budweiser car. And no NASCAR collection would be completed, I don't guess, without one of Jeff Gordon's cars. He really dominated there for several years in Winston Cup or Xfinity. And they do have a section called the Wall of Fame here. I see Bobby Allison and Henry Ford are on there. There's David Pearson and Kel Yarborough, some of the older drivers. I recognize a lot of names in here that they are honoring here. There's Richard Petty, I guess one of the most well-known drivers in NASCAR. And there, of course, Davey Allison. And then you have some, I don't know if they give them these trophies when they induct them into the Hall of Fame. I see Shirley Madowney there. I think she was a drag racer. Bobby Ray Hall. Joe Amato, Bob Glidden. I think these are race car drivers. Drag racers. Bobby Ray Hall, he may have been Indy or something. I'm not sure. There's John Force. I do know for sure he was a drag racer, and Richard Childress, which owned the Dale Earnhardt car. And I see they got a lot of slots open down here too for future inductees. I see Rusty Wallace down there. Here's a Daytona Charger that was driven by Buddy Baker. And it was in this era that they first broke the 200-mile-an-hour speed record, thanks in large part to this nose cone here that cut through the air and the big wing spoiler on the back that help keep the car on the track. And this is the Budweiser rocket car. I think I've seen this before on television or in ads, but it's really much longer than I anticipated it being. They have some facts here about the Budweiser rocket car, and the length is 39 feet, so it is really long, but it reached a speed of 739.666 miles per hour, which is Mach 1.01, it says. That is fast. And as you can see, there's just not much room right there. It's incredible. There's one of Jimmy Johnson's Lowe's cars over there. And this purple car here is one from the IROC series, which I don't think they do this anymore. But they used to take cars that were all set up identical. And they would take the top drivers from the different racing divisions and just put them in the cars and see who the best driver was. And they have this wall here of, looks like hand drawings of different cars and drivers. And this is an Indy Roadster from 1956. And this car right here is a Camaro, it looks like, what it is based off of, but I've never heard this designation before. It's called a modified. Here's a trophy case with all Dale Earnhardt scale model cars in here, die-cast collectibles. I remember that Olympics car that he drove there in the red, white, and blue. I always liked that car. Here's a display case with a lot of the older die-cast collectible cars here. Notice I've got several of the wing cars in here. Now the next room we enter into is looks like it's dedicated to the Alabama gang, which would have consisted of the Allisons, and I'm not sure. I think maybe Neil Bonnet was part of that. Here's another one of Davey Allison's cars, and it says it was nicknamed Battlestar. And from what I'm reading here, it sounds like it was one of his favorite cars that he did really well in. There's one of Donnie Allison's old cars, a Torino Talladega. They took a Torino and they sloped down the front nose of the cone to make it a little bit more aerodynamic. This car was driven by a Red Farmer. I think it's a Torino. And this looks like a delivery truck for Rocco and Cheater's Speed Shop in Birmingham, Alabama. This was Neil Bonnett's car in 1986. There's a lot of history here on the drivers too. If you're not familiar with who the drivers are, you can learn a lot from all the displays they have here. Here's a midget racer painted in STP Petty colors here. And it says Curtis by Hunter there, right in front of the driver. And it says the driver is Lee Hunter. They even have some soapbox derby cars here. They have one of Bobby Allison's cars here, and this display is for the unsung heroes of racing, which are the pit crews who keep the cars on the track, keep them fueled, good tires. They do have some old Harley Davidson motorcycles here, which I didn't really expect to see, but these are really some nice examples of some old motorcycles here. They also have a motorcycle here that was built by Orange County Choppers for a Caterpillar. And this says Harley Davidson 1916J. I guess J is the model, but it's really ornate. It's really a good looking bike. But it has this sidecar that it says parts and delivery on it, which I don't know if I've ever seen one of these like this before, but that's really cool. They have a couple of Pontiac engines on display here. One of them has a supercharger on it, I see. And this engine here that looks a little bit different, it says it's the first successful overhead camshaft Ford V8 racing engine ever built from 1937. And that is an unusual design from what I've seen in the past. They do have some wrecked automobiles in here, I guess to show what can happen and the safety of some of these cars have in them. But this would have been a bad wreck. It was a Monte Carlo you can tell from the front end here, but everything is just torn all to pieces here. Here's another car. Looks like it may have been a late model dirt track car or something, but anyway, it was sponsored by Kool-Aid. As you can see, the big Kool-Aid emblem on the hood, but again, this is really torn up badly. Here's one. I can't tell who the driver would have been on that either. Well, actually, okay, here on the wall they've got the Markle Waltrip crash. And there's the Kool-Aid car. It wasn't a dirt track car. It was actually just a regular Winston Cup car. But there's the story on the wall. And there's the car as it's demolished down there. Now this is one of Neil Bonnett's cars that is completely torn up. And as you can see on the picture up on the wall up there, the car is upside down in the air. This next room I'm going into, it has some drag racing cars in here, it looks like. This is called Mom's Toy, which is a early Chevelle. This 66 Chevelle right here, it says when it was raced, it ran 186 races before it was actually beaten for the first time. The driver was Ray Owen, and its record is 692 wins. 676 wins and 692 races. So it didn't lose very often. And inside it just looks completely stock in there. It was really a fast car that earned a good reputation, I'd say. They have a wall here dedicated to women racers from Alabama. And this car belonged to Patty Moyes, if I'm saying her name correctly. And this early 70s Chevrolet truck, it says it has the world's fastest closed course pickup with an average speed of 125 miles per hour here at Talladega. The next room we come into, they have some old engines set up in here. Here's an old Ford flathead engine. Got some Edelbrock performance parts on it there, it looks like. Next they have a small block Chevy engine and a transmission motor to it there. Then they have a 57 Oldsmobile rocket engine. It says it's a 371 cubic inch. I notice it still has an old generator on it. They have a little pavilion courtyard area out here that there's very little in it right now out here, but it looks like they might use it for events out here because it is covered. But out here they do have Bobby Allison's 1981 Aerostar Superstar plane. It says that he used to get around to different events when he was racing. Also, they have a blown up replica of a ticket to the Alabama 500 from Sunday, April 12th, 1970. Got a couple of the wing cars there too on the picture down below it. And of course there's a picture of the King Richard Petty. And looks like he's playing with Superbird behind him there. I have already left the building, but then I look back and there's another section in here that I didn't even go into while I was in the museum here. See old Dodge, red Dodge over there in the distance, and looks like a Firebird right there, the black one. Okay, I came back in because I completely missed this room. I don't know how I did that, but there's just so much here. Yeah, I would really recommend coming here. The International Motorsports Hall of Fame. It's really something. And yes, this was a Pontiac, as I thought it was looking out in through the windows out there. There's an old square body pickup truck. Somebody's been racing it, looks like. Now here's something that I'm glad I came back in here and saw. I did not know this even existed. This is a Sears Die-Hard powered, it says Sears Roebuck and Company. It says it's a research car, and it is battery powered. And they ran it up Pikes Peak, I guess, to see how it would just do under a hill climb. But it averaged 28 miles an hour, but it took place in 1981. But that's really interesting. I didn't even know Sears did something like that. Yeah, this is really unusual. I didn't know anything about this car. Here's a Buick here. It says Union Race Stoppers, but it looks like one of the old turbo coupes. But I've never seen this before. It looks like it has T-tops that would remove, but then the back looks like it's like a soft convertible top, which would leave this like a rope bar type structure here, and I've never seen that before. Not familiar with that. And this is the Orange Blossom Special, and I see it has a straight 6 in it, but it says it was raced in the dirt in Texas in the 60s. I really like that orange color though. And this was Dale Earnhardt's motorhome in 1994, it says, and it's really a long motorhome. A few more cars I got here in the courtyard pavilion area out here. In the gift shop, there's another display case dedicated to Dale Earnhardt here. A lot of his memorabilia. Here's the lobby of the International Motorsports Hall of Fame. They have a couple of pace cars here for the race at Talladega that's coming up in April of this year. This is a Ford Mustang. This has the Geico 500 on it here with a gecko up there. And this is the Camaro. And I think I actually like the looks of this one better. It's a ZL1. That's a good looking car. And it says this is more than a race. This is Talladega. And it is an impressive track. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks.